There was a moment during the Second World War when hunger stopped being an abstract fear and became a daily calculation. Not famine headlines, not dramatic collapses, but quiet, grinding scarcity. Bread was rationed to slivers. Meat appeared once a week, sometimes less. Fresh vegetables vanished for months at a time. In those conditions, survival did not depend on courage or optimism. It depended on whether you knew what to cook when there was almost nothing left. The people who endured weren't improvising randomly. They were drawing from a body of knowledge older than the war itself, recipes refined under pressure, passed hand to hand, rarely written down. These meals were not cuisine. They were systems. And once you understand them, you begin to see why they still matter. World War II cooking was governed by 3 unbreakable rules. Every ingredient had to serve more than one purpose. Nothing could rely on constant resupply, and meals had to preserve both strength and morale. This is why wartime recipes often look strange to modern eyes. They were designed to stretch calories, preserve nutrients, and function without electricity, refrigeration, or reliable fuel. Understanding these meals means understanding how food becomes infrastructure during collapse. When wheat disappeared across occupied Europe, people didn't wait for it to return. They went into forests and hedgerows. Acorns, long dismissed as animal feed, became a substitute grain precisely because they could be stored, processed and sourced locally. The critical step was removing tannins, which made acorns bitter and unsafe. Families crushed shelled acorns and soaked them in repeated changes of cold water for days. Once dried and ground, the flour was mixed with whatever true grain remained, sometimes none at all. The resulting bread was dense and dark, but filling and stable. In practical terms, this meant that even with no access to markets, bread could still exist. Today, the same process can be applied anywhere oak trees grow, turning overlooked calories into long-term food security. The most dangerous time of year was not winter, but early spring, when stored food was gone and gardens had not yet produced. This was known as the hungry gap. Nettles emerged before almost anything else and provided iron, calcium and vitamin C when bodies were weakest. Boiling neutralized their sting and transformed them into a mild, nourishing green. Combined with potatoes, barley or oats, nettle soup became a bridge between seasons. The lesson here is timing. Survival foods are often defined not by abundance, but by when they appear. Knowing which plants emerge first can mean the difference between depletion and recovery. Coffee vanished under blockades, but the habit, well, it remained. Roasted barley filled the gap, not chemically, but, psychologically. Barley was cleaned, roasted until dark, ground, and brewed just like coffee. Sometimes chicory or acorns were added. It offered warmth, bitterness, and ritual. This honestly mattered more than caffeine. Wartime kitchens understood that morale was a resource. Today, the same principle applies. When comforts disappear, substitutes that preserve routine really help people function under stress. Fresh vegetables were unreliable in winter, but cabbage could be fermented into sauerkraut with nothing but salt and thyme. Fermentation preserved vitamin C and prevented scurvy, which was a real threat during rationing. Large barrels were kept cold but unfrozen, and families removed only what they needed, keeping the rest submerged. This wasn't preservation for taste, it was preservation for health. The modern application is direct. Fermentation allows nutrients to survive when supply chains fail, without refrigeration or power. Potatoes were abundant, but honestly a bit dull. Grating and frying them into pancakes concentrated calories and made small amounts feel substantial. A spoonful of flour, or even just starch water, bound the mixture when eggs were unavailable. Fried in saved fat, these pancakes could be eaten fresh or carried cold into the fields. This illustrates a key wartime principle: changing form changes value. The same ingredient, prepared differently, can stretch both energy and morale. In spring fields and roadside ditches, dandelions provided free vitamins when cultivated greens were absent. Picked young, rinsed and dressed with vinegar or brine, they supplied nutrients that prevented deficiency. Some families blanched them to reduce bitterness and mixed them with potatoes. The knowledge required was minimal, but timing was critical. This teaches an uncomfortable truth. Survival often depends on recognizing food where others see nuisance. Meat was never cooked alone. Scraps, bones and small cuts were simmered with vegetables and grains to flavor entire pots. Slow cooking extracted every calorie and mineral. One portion of meat could feed a family for days. This was not about deprivation. It was about efficiency. Modern kitchens still unknowingly follow this pattern, but wartime households understood it as survival math. Windfall apples were cooked mashed, spread thin and dried into fruit leather. No sugar was required. Once dried, it lasted for months and provided portable energy. The only cost was time. This technique turned fragile, perishable fruit into a stable reserve, a lesson in patience over consumption. They did not survive because they had full cupboards. They survived because they knew what to do when cupboards were empty. These recipes were not nostalgia. They were tools, and tools only work if they are remembered. If this knowledge matters to you, subscribe to the past. They hid, and share this with someone who still believes survival is about stockpiles instead of skills. History doesn't repeat politely. It tests what you remember.